Hello. In this video, we are going to cover monitoring and alarms in Amazon Web Service. Monitoring allows you to see the status of many parameters of your instance in real time, and alarms lets you flag a problem and generate notifications. We're going to start by looking at monitoring, which will show you what your alarms could be based on, and then we'll set up an alarm for CPU utilization and AWS credit balance, as these I feel are the two most likely to matter during this class. It's likely neither of these alarms will trigger while you complete assignments in this class. However, if they were to do that, you would have to take action right away to avoid spending money. So this is the main instance screen on AWS. If we scroll down and switch to Monitoring tab, you can see all the different items we can monitor. We pull one of them up. Let's look at CPU utilization. So when you pull it up, what this means up here in the top center is every 5 minutes, it'll take the average CPU utilization and plot that on this graph. So as you can see, the time increments are in 5 minutes. We can change this. By default, I believe it's 1 hour, which is not very helpful for our purposes. What I typically ended up doing was going down to 5 or 1 second. And then if you need to, you can hit the refresh here. And this way, when you, for example, when you start building a project and the resource utilization goes up, 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 up here, when it's set to 1 hour, you're not going to see anything relevant or useful. So you set it to 5 seconds, you can see if it's going up, oh, the processor is straining, it's doing everything it can because the build action takes a lot of processing. However, then if it's not responding for a while, you might see it's still going up or plateauing, like it's probably a lot higher than 1.33%, but nothing's going on my server at the moment. So it would just be working, working, working. Now, this is where troubleshooting would come in, and you could decide if you need to stop the instance or what would be the best course of action. If the CPU utilization is coming down, that means the majority of the build work is probably done and you just need to be patient and life will be good. However, if the percentage keeps going up, 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 and just stays very high, and it's not coming down after what you feel it's a reasonable amount of time, I would say maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on how patient you are, then you might have a problem with your CPU not being powerful enough to take care of this in a reasonable amount of time. And it might be a good idea to stop the instance and possibly upgrade your CPU before trying again. Otherwise, you'll just burn through credits at a higher than normal rate. You can also do minimum, which is over the 5 seconds, what's the minimum CPU utilization at any point. It'll document that. What's the maximum? Sum doesn't really make a lot of sense in this case, and I've never used any of this stuff down here. It doesn't seem worthwhile. You can also look at it over a period of 3 hours, 12 hours. You kind of understand how this goes. If you are troubleshooting a specific instance problem, it might be helpful to switch to local time zone just so you can see the time of the day it is for you and not this other UTC. You can refresh here. Obviously, this has been refreshing every time I change one of these. That was not my experience in the class, so maybe that was a problem back then that they've since fixed. I'm not sure, but in case of a problem, just hit the refresh and you're good to go. All right, so that's monitoring. All the others work in exactly the same way. CPU credit usage. This is our credit that we run out of eventually. Okay, now we're going to switch gears and set up alarms to notify us when bad situations happen. We're going to set up 2 alarms that I think are most likely to suit the use cases you'll have during this class. The first one is going to be CPU utilization, which is going to just let us know, hey, the CPU is getting used an awful lot. Something might be happening that you don't want. You should check on this. We're going to do a second alarm that's going to look at our credit balance, our CPU credit, which translates into the credit we have with AWS before we get charged. And we're going to set it up so that once we get if we get too low, it's going to shut down the instance, so we can't get charged and let us evaluate the situation from there. So this is pretty simple. We're going to go down and we're going to go to status and alarms. This is an old one, just ignore this. We're going to create a status check alarm. The first one we're going to do is for CPU utilization. So we want to create a new alarm. So alarm notification, this is how you're going to be notified. The first time you do this, you're going to have to set up Amazon SNS, which is basically just adding the email that you want notified. You can be notified through other means also, but email is definitely the simplest. So that's why I already have a default that I'm going to use here. This is going to send me an email to my personal email saying, hey, you have a problem. And you can describe what it'll say later too. So you'll just have to type in your email and you'll be good to do this. Alarm actions, we're not going to do this right now. This is what we'll do for the credit balance. This allows us to stop our instance. The reason we're not going to do this for CPU utilization is you might have high CPU utilization during builds for projects. When you build a project on AWS and you don't want your instance shutting down, you just want to be aware of the situation, make sure, hey, if this goes on for too long, this could be a problem, but it's probably not a problem just to hit a certain benchmark. So we're not going to do that now. Scrolling down, this is the same as how monitoring works. So we have average, max, minimum. We're going to do the average for CPU utilization. We're going to make sure to actually check CPU utilization. We want to trigger an alarm when the average CPU utilization is greater than or equal to 85% for let's go with 3 consecutive 5-minute periods. You can adjust this if you want. We have our fantastic alarm name, which I'm just going to leave as is. This is kind of a snapshot. We can look back, hey, over the last week, would I have ever hit this? That kind of thing. You can kind of look at your actual thing, your actual levels plus the threshold for the alarm. And we're going to go ahead and click create. All right, now we've created our first one. We can go back to our instance. So one thing you'll notice is this is our old one. It doesn't show up right away. And if you click the refresh, it still doesn't show up. You can get it to show up the most quickly I've found by refreshing the entire page, going to status and alarms. It's going to load the instance alarms, and now we're going to have 2 here. So it's going to say state insufficient information. It's still only showing the first one. This is the first one, right? Oh, so the first one was for CPU utilization, and so this one was a lower threshold, I guess. So it just replaced it. That's interesting. Okay, well, so this is our alarm that we just set up, and it looks good to go. Okay, cool. All right, so action, we're going to create a, this is the important one, a CPU credit balance alarm. So we're going to create a new alarm. We're going to use our same notification system as before. Now we're going to tell it that we want it to stop the instance when we trigger this. We're going to say if our balance hits at a minimum, we don't want usage, we want balance. If our balance is less than or equal to, so for this, 1 CPU credit is 1 minute of CPU operating at 100%. So if you, I'm going to set this to 60. And what this means is when this triggers, you will have at least 1 hour of max usage left. That should be plenty of time to go in and do anything you need to do, fix anything you need to fix. Because most of the time you won't be using 100%. So realistically, this is a lot more than an hour, but it's a good, it feels like a good point to be for me. And if at any point we hit this, we're going to trigger it. So we don't want 1 consecutive period, 5 minutes is totally fine. I am going to name this slightly different, just because I want to make sure we can identify them on that screen where we only see the first few characters. That seems fine. That seems fine. As you can see right now, I have 280 and slowly dropping credits. And the threshold will be hit when we get down to here, which I have plenty of time left. So we're going to hit create. We're going to go back to our instance. We're going to status and alarms. Load these, and now we should see 2. Perfect. And this is what's going to show up the first time for you most of the time, just because it has insufficient data, because we wanted to check over a 5-minute period. It hasn't been 5 minutes. Doesn't have 5 minutes of data to go off of. That's the only reason this is here. After a little time, you'll see it switch just like this one did. All right, so that's how you can set up alarms in AWS. It's a pretty powerful tool to warn you before you might get charged money or if there's a problem with your instance. Hopefully this helped you, and please feel free to message the instructor or myself on Slack if you have additional questions, comments, or concerns. There's no reason you should be charged during this class, as we are not doing a lot of intensive work. It's just the builds are a CPU spike, and then if you use the script that keeps restarting the instance anytime it crashes, that could potentially use up quite a bit of CPU balance. Just keep an eye on it and you should be good. And as we've said before, definitely when you don't need to keep it up, when you're not using it and you're not waiting for peer feedback, it's strongly advised that you stop the instance. That way your balance cannot go down. So if we go here, instance state, remember we can always stop instance. It won't hurt anything and we'll be good to go. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you, and have a wonderful day. Happy coding.